This session, you know, is titled How to Enable the Inclusion of Citizen and Social Actors in the Shaping of Advanced Material. And I welcome you here to discuss about that. It's not a simple subject. You know that we are used to say as a material part of material community that material is everywhere. We are aware about the roles of material in our daily life. Our body is material, this building is material, everything around us is material. And if something fails, whatever will be, a building, a bodies, or a table, or your car machine, depends by the failure in material. So material is really at the core of anything. But unfortunately, this is quite clear to the scientists or innovators that are active in materials, but it's not the same for everybody. If you try to ask to your relatives, to your friends, or you stop one people just in the street and you ask, do you have enough feelings, or how much material is relevant for your life, for your daily life? The answer is no. The airplane is no material. The car is not material for them. It's another things. And that is our problem. And this problem becomes much more complicated when we address another point, that is the concept of engagement of these people that do not have perception of material. Why we are going to take care of this problem? Because it's a commission asking us. You know how much strong is the request of commission, in particular in Horizon Europe, and is never, as it was in the past, so strong. The idea that we had to engage citizens in our activity. That doesn't mean to necessarily bring citizens in our laboratory or experiments, but means to give them idea of what commission or what you do in your daily life in the laboratory when you address the material science and technology. Well, these two elements are apparently completely contradictory, because we had to convince some things how much is relevant the investment in research innovation in materials for their life, where there are no perception how much material is relevant for everything is around them. So this is the subject. What we will do today is to first try to set the scene. We have decided to ask colleagues from the SocKET project, and will be from Andrea Porcari, I will introduce soon, to set a scene about what today is in European landscapes as far as concerned the material and society relation or social relation. And there is a lot. There are a lot of activity already running. There is a lot, not only material, because the science-society relations, it's already active in all the other clusters and not only in cluster 4, but there is a lot. So we will see the scene using this project as an element of brainstorming, just to remind that we are not to invent the wheel, but we have to do the wheel very, very, very circle, very round, because this wheel is not really going well today. We have a lot of difficulties, in particular for materials, again, when we address the citizen, let's say. Following this first setting of scene, we will have a debate with reputed speakers that will help us to, let's say, brainstorming. We are not going to give you receipt today, and not certainly final solution to the problem. As a Eumat, we have a long list of questions, about 10 or 12 questions, main questions that we have defined as our roadmap for addressing the problem. And today we had the time just to pick up few questions, but again, this is not just the ending of the story, it's just the beginning of the story. As a Eumat, certainly we will take care of this activity, and we would progress really in find robust solution, or at least robust examples that can create evidence of the citizen perception of the role of materials. I'm not using advanced material. For me, it's materials now the problems. Certainly, advanced material is the second, is the adjective that is in the backhand, but let's speak about materials because we have to start from the beginning. So, Andrea, I would like to start from you. Andrea Porcari. I'm going to introduce you. It was foreseen. Andrea Porcari is from APRE, is the Italian Association for Industrial Research. You have a long experience in many projects as far as concerned citizen engagement. So again, the relation between citizen and science. So take care of the times and.
Thank you and welcome everybody. So I will present to you briefly the results and the experience of SocKET project on societal engagement on key enabling technologies. This is a collective work that engaged with with different organizations and groups of people. You can find them in the slides. Co-creation, societal engagement, innovation, all these concepts share something that is the joint creation of values. If you look at even at the specific definition of these terms. And we can, sorry, there's some kind of noise. You did it. And likely we can find this concept of joint development of values even in other aspects like open innovation, responsible innovation, even new forms of education like so-called development of horizontal skills, development of interactional skills, the capacity to cooperate and being able to create relationships. All those aspects I think are important when we discuss about participatory processes. And if you look at a definition that is coming from 40 years ago and work on democratic participation from Sherry Einstein, we had this scale about the ambition of societal engagement going from manipulation at the very bottom to consultation, partnership, and citizen control. And our ambition as project, and maybe what we want to discuss today, is to build trust and increase acceptability and quality of innovation through consultation and partnerships with citizens in the innovation process. And we can find and identify a set of different objectives of our societal engagement exercises. And the ones in blue are the one we want to discuss today: create relationships, favor active participation, envision technological futures. This is something we did in SocKET. Test, scale up innovations, to share values, inspire innovation, understand, anticipate impacts, and create awareness. But societal engagement, it's a process and designed for specific purposes. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution and needs to be at least multidisciplinary, should involve different actors, should bring different views, roles, sometimes even conflicting roles, should be iterative and practice-oriented. Could act at different levels and of course could have different impacts, technologies, product, local, global scale. It needs a lot of resources in terms of motivation, mindset, support, facilitation. Overall, for us, we think should be surprising, should help you to go out of your comfort zone. When you finish a laboratory, a participatory lab, you should add something to your knowledge, something that maybe was unexpected for you. If you do it early on, low-tech readiness levels, this could be good to anticipate impacts, understand technology potential, and you're still in time to change your innovation process. You can do it also later on. Maybe you will be more precise on your impacts, the type of applications you will have, but of course, it will be more difficult to shape and change your development. And of course, the risk is to focus only on the functionality of your product. And if a why, what, and when of societal engagement could be general, the how and who we think need to be specific. And this is why I'm giving you some highlights on the SocKET project that comes from a long story of societal engagement exercise in the previous framework program. I'm just mentioning you 3 projects we have been involved in, but there are many more in the list, of course. It's a stepwise approach to co-create. It starts with the mapping of innovation ecosystem, the engagement, and then the development of solutions in the form of innovation strategies, design suggestions, good practices and recommendations for co-creation, and even nice exhibitions that have been displayed throughout all Europe and are also available digitally. 6 countries, 3 sectors, all quadruple helix stakeholders involved: policy, research, industry, society. But how to do this, how to facilitate these processes? There are plenty of methods to do them. This is just a list of what we use. Methods to solicit different societal dynamics, creativity, imagination while doing your exercise. And you may be familiar with a word cafe exercise, for example, that is often used in conferences. We used an innovation ecosystem perspective to select our stakeholders where innovation is at the center. You have the primary actors that are developing the innovation. You have the secondary actors that are influencing innovations like local authorities, and we are the contextual actors, the one that will be impacted by the innovation. And we try to engage people with a stake and role in innovation ecosystems to ensure having multiple views and perspectives. Our three labs, why we choose the sectors. Circular economy and construction, because it's a traditional low-tech sector with an high impact on people's life. E-health devices, because of the aging of the population, combined with a shortage in healthcare labor in some countries, patient-doctor relationships, and many other aspects. AI, new ways of work, unemployment, de-skilling, upskilling. All of these sectors have societal implications that is important to discuss with citizens. And if you look at enabling technologies, they are pervasive across societies. This is why we need to do citizen engagement. But we use them as building blocks, materials and kits as building blocks of innovation, but with citizens, we discussed about innovation and applications and not technology per se. So 200 participants overall, about 50 from society, including advocacy in the sectors related to the sectors we addressed, and lay people. And why these people decided to join our initiatives? If we think about stakeholders, because of inspiration, of networking, of addressing and understanding better challenges and impacts of innovation. If we look at citizens and their motivation, it's about curiosity, it's about having knowledge, it's about maybe addressing problems, for example, with their e-health devices or in social housing settings. This is an example of the outcomes of our lab. It's from Italy. It's a scenario for innovative technologies and solutions for citizens and everyday life. It's a collective work of our lab. It shows you the context of innovation, the city. It shows you areas of innovation, sharing spaces, efficiency, digitalization, buildings, and provides suggestions on ways to pursue these technological innovations, and you can find it in our website for more information. Too complicated to present it today. We also got a lot of impressions and views on our technologies. Here is just a snapshot, and given the diversity of participants, we got completely different opinions from the technology perspective, the right material in the right place, to some attitudes toward technology, willingness to share data if it brings personal benefits, in-health devices, to general policy comments, improve science education in society. This is just to give you a snapshot of the diversity of elements that could come out from this exercise. So, in conclusion, what has been our learnings, the pros and cons of our exercise? For sure, local interaction with small groups, this innovation ecosystem perspective, the cooperation with networks has been very effective. We know that stakeholders had an advantage in participating to our events in terms of networks, ideas, so on and so forth. Citizens, this is not so clear-cut. I mean, of course, they get knowledge and awareness, but the benefit for them, it's less clear. So advocacy groups were very effective, knowledgeable, they gave good inputs. Of course, they are bringing their view in the debate. Lay people are very difficult to engage, very difficult to motivate to participate. But once you engage them, they can really bring you some genuine, new perspectives. The risk is to have just an informative exercise, no practical outcomes. And this did not happen to us, but the mediatization and misinterpretation of something when you put a topic in the spotlight. So, worth doing it? I would say yes. It could pay off, could have tangible outcomes, more often has got intangible and long-term impacts and outputs. Design and facilitation is the most important thing. So here is a guide on our website with everything I said, and the Let's Tech Together exhibition about the meat and narratives of innovation, if you like, and this a follow-up event in 2 weeks. And thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you, Andrea. So I will speed up, but at least I will start from your positive sentence that when engaged, they will do a lot. So now the question is how to reduce the activation energy to move the citizen from the low energy level to the activated energy. So I had the pleasure now to introduce, okay, that doesn't matter. The pleasure to introduce to the roundtable. Just to say one thing that I forgot. You have seen that this session has been organized from Eumat and SocKETs, but also the logo of NCP for Industry project is there. I will give the floor at the hand of the roundtable to a representative from the project. The NCP for Industry is the current Horizon Europe network supported by the European Commission of the national, I suppose that you should know what are the national counterpoints dedicated to cluster 4, in particular to industry. This is so, but I will give you the floor. So let's start from the roundtable. My role is just to introduce the speakers, but I will start from our moderator. We have the pleasure that the moderation of this session will be done by Sofie Nørager from the European Commission. And Sofie is a physics, but in this moment she's here as a deputy head of unit in the unit Industrial Transformation and DG Research Innovation. In the meanwhile, I'm going to introduce the others, so and you can jump with me. Blanka Lenzowski, I should be with us. Okay, sorry, Blanka, as usual, I am not going to pronounce well your names, but nice to meet you. And Blanka will be with us in remote. But the pleasure is also to introduce Cissi Askwall. She's a journalist, former Secretary General of the Swedish Nonprofit Association Public and Science, and President of the European Science Engagement Association. Cissi, if you want to join. No, you can join. I'm going to leave the floor now. And after that, Kathrine Collin Hagan, Head of Department in Danish Board of Technology, leading engagement processes involving both citizen and stakeholder. And nowadays we can move to Steffen Foss Hansen. Okay, Steffen. He is professor in risk assessment and regulation of emerging material in the Department of Environmental Resource Engineering of the Technical University of Denmark. And as usual, last but not least, Roland Brandenburg. He the transnational initiative in FFG. FFG is the Austrian Resource Promotion Agency. And in particular, is here for his long experience in material as a coordinator of a EU-funded network, Maranet, that is the current co-funded still running project for material. Is an European partnership, clearly. So I will give everything to you, including this, and please.
Good. So we will try to kind of have a little bit of a lively discussion because we are at the end of the day and everybody's a little bit tired. I have a series of questions I will ask the panelists. I will normally address them to two of you, but then the others can of course also chip in. And if there is somebody from the audience who really has something really burning you would like, then please raise your hand. I have a volunteer who will run around with a micro should it be needed. But we can also, if somebody's sitting up, the new people entering the room, just come down here, then you're not so far away. So I think we had a very nice scene setting introduction, and I would say the questions I have actually follow up on this scene setting introduction. So my first question will be addressed to Cissi and Kathrine as, primary speakers, and then the others can come in also. And we will do our best to also look at the screen of where we have to look. I don't know where Blanka sees us, in which way we have to turn. But we are fully inclusive. That's very important. So my question is, how can citizens be empowered, and I would say also motivated, to become active participants in decision-making when it concerns advanced materials? It's a little bit what Marco said, how can we make their activation energy stay up there and remain up there? So, Cissi, start, and then Kathrine.
Okay, so my very first question, should I use your microphone? Or are there more microphones that we can use, maybe? Okay, so I think it's it's really a lot about dialogue. You really need to listen. You really need to explain, why do you want these people to engage with you? What's in it for them? Why are you interested in their views? And also to follow up. So what are you going to do with what's the input they are giving you? Hopefully also what's in it. Is there some kind of reward? It might not be, monetary rewards, but you see that your views are well taken care of. So it's really important to tell, why do you want people to engage with you? And if you can do that, and you can often go through civic groups, NGOs of different kinds, you will reach out to engaged citizens. And maybe you want to follow up, Kathrine.
Yes, thank you. Thank you also for the organizers for addressing this question of co-creation on this conference. That's really nice. I really agree with you, Cissi, about the main points you made about the engagement of citizens. And some of us that are engaged in this co-creation processes think that is the most natural thing, the most obvious thing in the whole world to collect different perspectives of whatever you are doing, whether it's advanced materials, is other complex discussions in solving societal problems. We all need these different perspectives on what we are doing. And we also see that there's a strong push from the European Union to engage in co-creation and engagement, citizen engagement. And a lot of us are engaged in projects trying to make this a reality, to engage citizens in these difficult discussions. And many of us also find it very difficult. And why is it? Because we have all read all the handbooks, all the guides, all the good advices for how to engage citizens, but it's still difficult. And actually, I would just say that the same thing as maybe you can read in the textbook number, page 1. It's a matter of what's in it for the people you invite to be there. Also, engage them from the beginning, because most of us, we come to do it at a late time, because we just have to finalize the frame. We have to agree on what we are talking about. We have to be a little bit, have knowledge ourselves, and then we can invite the citizens or the NGOs. Then it's too late. We have to start from the very beginning, because what is motivating is to be a part of the table, defining what the problem is, not just to be asked to give your perspectives, but the whole problem identification, we need to include citizens. Sorry to, yeah. So that's basic. I think timing and design, take seriously that you are involving people that are maybe not used to be part of these processes. Try to handhold them a little bit, involve them in all phases. Make it very clear what the results, what the output is going to be used for, because nobody wants to waste her time or his time. So very important to make it clear what is the room for like influence here, if there's any. And I have other good advices, but let's start.
Maybe if you can pass the micro. There was an intervention.
Yes, so I agree with a lot with what was said. Maybe I would just like to define from the beginning a little bit, because I do think that we need to reach out to primary schools and high schools even before we necessarily engage with citizens that have rights to vote. And I know that the Danish Technology Board does this a lot, but we also in the MISTRA nano or environmental nano safety project really thought about, okay, we'll reach out to high school students or primary school students, not necessarily because we need their input on nanomaterials, but it will lay the ground for their future participation in discussions about technologies to come. So we're kind of trying to train them to engage in discussions that they're not ready for yet, but they will be asked to engage later on. And I think that's very important to also remember.
Can I just take the opportunity? Who of you here in the room has actually, engaged in such a discussion in an area which is maybe, you know, in this case, not materials, maybe because you're all specialists, but have you participated to such engagements? Good, good. I'm happy to see that there is, you know, we know what we're talking about. Okay, I will maybe, is there anybody who wants any burning question in this case, or shall we move to the next question, which is a little bit advancing on the first question, and we're talking.
There's a comment
Blanka,
online.
yes, please go ahead.
So maybe, so what I would add, thank you to invite me for this discussion. So what I wanted also to say, it's maybe to make clear for the future generation, for the young people, that they need to think about material. What does it mean, material? Because from my experience, when I was visiting with my friends the exhibition of airplane, so maybe they distinguish not what is material and material. So it's one of the dads explained to the kids, oh, do you see the material? It was always, it was metallic, and today is everything plastic. So today, the people, they don't distinguish what is material, how important it is material. And when they we explain to them, if the material, we know it, the material can extend the life of the products. And if we extend the life of the products, so we are saving also our planets, because we are saving our energy. And this is why we need to explain in simplified way why materials is important and what we can do. And this is what we have also in the German Society of Materials. We realize that not many engineers understand what is material. So we have to go to the schools, and maybe they'll help that the kids or young kids, or maybe in the high schools, they are educating also the parents about what is the material, and we call it feel and see material. What is not usual the way today, only between us, the experts. So it was only my remark from my experience.
I think very, very helpful remark, very nice discussion here. But building on it, I think is really the question about trust. And I will address it now, so it will be a question to you, Blanka, and to Steffen, about, you know, what are the actions and measures which are necessary to build the trust in the products and the service. And it's a little bit, if your child was flying in a metal airplane before and the toys are all of metal, and you tell them you're flying in plastic now, you know, how do you make sure that we trust these new materials which come onto the market, and how do we inform citizens so that they can have confidence in these products and services? I would suggest, Blanka, maybe do you want to start, and then we hand over to Steffen afterwards?
Yes, so of course I can start very easy. So when the materials are developed, when they are agreed, they are quantified, verified, and everything is running through the certification with EASA, European certification company for aeronautics. So therefore, it always trusts it's available. But what I think, what is for the future, what is very important, and this is what I understood should be the question, or how I understood the question reading that here, is how we can make aware that the advanced material are quicker implemented in our product. And for that, I'm coming back. We need also to give the opportunity to different disciplines, not only to the material guys, but also to the designer to understand what is material, so that finally, if we have very new technology, which is very promising because of the sustainability approaches, because of the energy which is needed for the recycling, maybe also for the production, so we could make sure that we are implementing new material and new technology in the product. And this is what we have to go, and this is what is based on the quantum computing for the future, because when we are collecting a lot of material and material data and processes and artificial intelligence, they will help us on one hand to find the best solution with the energy, long life, and so on. But of course, we need to trust that final the decision what is the best for us, it's taken by the human being. However, for that we need education, and education on different discipline, not only on the material, but we need different discipline so that the people have a big view what is material, what is quantum computing, what is artificial intelligence, and they need to feel, and we need to have the close value chain from the pre-design phase until end of the life. And for me, end of the life is more or less the beginning of the new product. So because we have to consider where the materials finally are when the end of the life is, so that we can include it in the same quality again in similar products. So I hope it was clear what I wanted to, what is my message. So we need to think earlier how to implement new technology in our product by giving the knowledge to the other discipline like designer and architecture of future products.
Yep, I'm not sure I fully agree when it comes to trust, but what we've seen from nanotechnology is that initially trust is very much associated with the purpose of developing the technology. So if you're developing and using a material for some kind of stupid application and you call it nano, then the citizens will very likely see through that marketing scheme and distrust the technology. Over time, it seems to be very closely related to the development of regulation. So if there's regulation in place, if there are measures to generate health and safety information and the citizens know that this is being addressed, methods are applicable for the technology itself. So if you have these three components, then there's a very high likelihood that citizens and the general public will have a great trust in the technology because they generally trust the regulatory systems that we have in place in the EU. So the worst thing that happened to nanotechnology was actually the very delayed actions that the Commission was taking to address nanomaterials under REACH. That kept creating a lot of distrust between various stakeholders because nobody understood why the Commission was delayed all the time.
Yes, so maybe it is, okay, if I can add something regarding that. To trust in the nanotechnology is, of course, not so easy. It's depending on which application you think, if it's a micro, micro, or a big application. From the Airbus point of view, we need to tell you that we always need to fulfill all the regulation for health and safety. Without that, we cannot edit any nanomaterial in our product. So this is what need to be considered. But what I understood also for the new products, even when the research institutes start, they have to work on that, and we can only buy if the health and safety regulation were followed. So this is for the industry. So we need to have very close cooperation between the scientific approach and scaling up the technology until it's integrated in the product.
I just wanted to add on a more general perspective, but generally speaking, trust in science, technology, research and researchers is generally high in Northern Europe. It's a bit less in Southern Europe, but still there's this regular Eurobarometers being measuring people, EU citizens, attitudes towards science, technology, research. And I would say as long as we're open, that you can follow what's being developed, why, and as you said about regulations is really, really important. We know that this is not, researchers do whatever they like to do, but the society make sure, policymakers make sure that this is within frameworks. I think we are in good position in Europe, generally speaking, that people really, on a general level, trust science. There's been a lot of talk about mistrust, and that people are listening to alternative facts and to false news and conspiracy theories. But if you look at the majority, there's a large, quiet majority, which still is very trustful towards science and technology.
Yes, please go ahead.
Well, no, that's just something I would like to mention, and this is a concept of responsible research and innovation, which we've introduced recently in the emerald activities, to make sure that the researchers that submit proposals and the research comply with societal needs, sustainability, etc. So this is a concept that has gained attraction in our activities recently, and I think this is an important tool to also inform the community about the responsibility that we all have.
Yes, thank you very much. Any interventions from the room? Up, up, up.
Where is it? Oh, it's up.
Hello, my name is Franko Winter. I'm from the company who's producing nanomaterials. I'm just a little bit confused. We are very ambitious, if you talk about it. I'm not one to be negative, I'm just realistic. If you want to educate younger people, teenagers, also much younger, who's going to educate them? Which sources are they going to use? How reliable will that source be? So it needs to be evaluated. We are already struggling the last 10 years to have even proper scientific work available that you can really trust. So, and then on the other side, who is interested now as citizens? Which kind of part of the people are you talking about? The intellectual ones, or maybe the majority who are more focused on Versace, Louis Vuitton, you know, that's the majority, that's how it goes. So I'm just now wondering, which parts of citizens are you now focused on? How you're going to make it larger, that you have more, get the people more attracted and more interested in that, because the majority will not have interest in that. I'm just be critical.
Thank you very much. I'm just taking an intervention as I go down, so think about your answers.
Thank you. I'm Jacqueline Allen. I worked for the Irish government on public awareness and also for the OECD. And thank you for your comment. I completely agree with it. I'd just like to add, who's going to pay for example, you know, bringing science and technology to young people, and how are you going to support teachers who tend to be generalists in bringing science and technology to young people? Because I do agree that it has to start in homes, it has to start in the school. But teachers are already overwhelmed, from my experience, and you know, how do you support them, and how do you give them the comfort to deal with this unfamiliar subject? Thank you.
Maybe if one of the panelists already starts answering, then we had another question here afterwards. We just let them talk a little bit.
So what we did in the MISTRA Environmental Nano Safety Project was to go out to schools ourselves. And of course, we developed the materials ourselves, and we did the training ourselves, and we followed up on the training ourselves. But I mean, it's not something that we couldn't teach a bunch of teachers if they had the resources and energy to take on that task on top of everything else they do. And I think that's exactly one of the problems that we're having. Like, of course, asking the underfunded and overworked staff of all of our public institutions to do more is not a viable option for sure. So, but there we're talking about a much bigger problem than just educating in nanotechnology. And I mean, like, who cares? Like, who cares about democracy, right? But we still teach democracy pretty much every day to our school children, in the way that we ask them to stand in line, in the way that we ask them to vote on what they want to do during the break, and so forth. And it's basically what we also have to do with health and safety of nanomaterials and chemicals and so forth. We have to make it part of our everyday lives. When they learn about physics, when they learn about chemical properties, they have to learn about the properties that make substances hazardous. They have to know about solubility. They have to know about volatility. Why? Because they have to ask that question when they buy the next cosmetic product. Is this something that is hazardous? So in that way, you can integrate it throughout the training. And I think that's what has to be done. But it starts with the teachers.
Since you did not mention the European paradox, I wonder, how do you think, when and how the European paradox will be saved?
What's the paradox?
I'm not surprised that you haven't heard about the European paradox. The European paradox comprises the fact that we in Europe, and in particular in Sweden, are putting more money on research than at anyone in the world. But that, unfortunately, still has a consequence that Europe, and in particular also Sweden, have declined from the world market during the last 20 years considerably. So don't forget, we have the enormous competence, we have excellent research facilities, we have excellent researchers, and as I said, we are spending more money on research than anywhere in the world. But in spite of that, our position on the world market has decreased considerably and is still decreasing.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if any of the panelists want to comment on that. Or did we have an intervention from Blanka also? Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, okay. Thank you for all the interesting remarks which were mentioned by the people in the room and also with some of the panelists. But for my understanding, so at first I was already mentioned that we need educated staff. And I'm not sure that only the teacher can bring the understanding for material. So because for my understanding, it is our role, responsibility. We should take over the material community to be more active. And as we are going also to the school or the university, and we need to make visible how far the scientific approach is going into the product, how long is the way, so that they have more concrete use cases. Because for the teacher, it's really difficult to make it more attractive because they are more theoretical. And as you know, theory, it's nice, but you need to see where is the product, what's happening. And this is what we need to add, to integrate, to go as industry to the school. And for example, we are also inviting young people. So we have some competitiveness for school people, giving them opportunities to visit us. We are inviting, so of course it was Corona time, inviting the people from universities when they go to take the decision which technological or which university they want to study, to give them a little bit more insight view, what is possible, what you can move, what you can influence when you are material scientist or if you are physicist on material and so on. I think we cannot pass the responsibility only to the teacher. It's in our responsibility at university, industry, and ourselves as community.
Thank you very much. I think we had a question on education, but we have very much addressed it. And in view of time, I will also maybe move to the last question we had, but you, of course, you know, the things are interlinked, so you're still welcome to come into it. The last question is a little bit also related to what Blanka just was saying, is how do we engage? You know, one thing is what do we as material scientists have to do to engage with the public, but it's also how can you use the local communities, the scientific networks in the member states or in the regions, how can you draw on them also to help in this education, in the trust building, cities, regions, all these actors. We had Skåne region is present, with a stand here. What is their role to play in it? And, how do they need to interact? So the question was intended for Roland and Steffen, but feel free. Roland, maybe you want to start, and then the others follow up.
Yeah, I think with European networks, we have the good opportunity to act at various levels, to align priorities at the European, national and regional levels to address priorities, and to engage a wide set of stakeholders. So it's important to bring together everybody who has an interest in the subject, starting with policymakers who take decisions, but then also including public funding for research, of course, and then also address the research community to make sure that all the priorities are considered, and this is especially important to mobilize local communities, regional communities, maybe in particular in less active countries, which may be find it hard to engage it at European levels in European projects. So with networks of national and regional organizations, we have a much closer contact to communities, and that gives us a unique chance.
Yes, I think the concept of open science is useful in this way, because open science is not only about open access to publication, open data, but it's also about communicating, engaging, involving citizens and different stakeholders. What was used to be called responsible research and innovation, which is still around, but the Commission and we talks a lot more about open science, but it's really about the same thing, to involving all relevant stakeholders and the public at large within research and innovation processes, so that the products and results and services will be as useful and as sustainable as possible. And to achieve that, of course, we need to reach out to find those relevant stakeholders and people. And then the local networks, the regional, the national networks are very, very useful, because there are networks like the networks we see here during this conference with a lot of engaged peoples and stakeholders that we can use in these processes. So it's really important to use all those people that are already engaged and involved.
Thank you. Kathrine, you wanted to?
Yes, I think going through the local networks and authorities give us a good chance to meet the people, because they are in touch with the people staying in the municipality or the region. So for that matter, the institutions and network can be used for recruiting participants in our processes. But I think we sometimes say that people only want to involve themselves if it's a local topic or something. But I think actually our experience in the Danish Board of Technology is that a lot of lay people, normal people, they really also want to engage in the big societal complex processes, not only local issues. So the question from the back here, that who is really interested from the citizens, I think it's a crucial question. I think we need also to differ between what is a citizen when we say we want to engage citizens, because some citizens, they are organized in NGOs, civil society organization, they represent a stake or an interest, and they are sometimes very organized and do heavy advocacy for whatever they represent, and we have to know that when we invite them in the room. Whereas other processes rather want to engage lay people, and we heard Andrea saying that can be really tough. That's true, because how do you meet lay people? Do you go on the street just inviting, shouting people? How do you actually invite them? And here I want to mention a nice example that I and the Danish Board of Technology have been involved in conveying a European Citizens Panel for the Commission during the last years. And we invite citizens by random selection. It means they get a phone call by a recruiter and they haven't selected themselves. And that gives a very special group of people, diverse group of people. And people come there because they find it interesting and because they were selected to give their voice. And we have debated very, very complex issues with these panels, like virtual reality, like foreign policy in Europe, like very difficult questions. And what we experience is that those citizens are really, really engaged. Also, there's a clear way, of course, to the Commission, to the decision makers. It also makes it like an asset to be there. But I think we can learn from these processes. Also, when we talk about materials, also when we bring those methods into the social labs or the co-creation workshop that we do. To try and learn from these new formats of practicing democracy.
Okay, thank you very much. I think Steffen still wanted, and Blanka, did you raise your hand also? Was it just a movement?
No, it was movement, but however, so what I would like to mention, I fully agree for the materials, but what was said from the lady, I'm sorry, I haven't seen her so exactly, but however, so maybe it would be nice to present or to publish simplified stories about how successful the life of the people was simplified by application of maybe nanomaterial in easier way, and maybe to make some booklet on European level for different products. So to bring the product materially in product to do big public audience. So this is what I think we can start to do in simplified way, not to stay only for the research, but simplification to start with the kids' child booklets.
Okay, yes. I think this is a very concrete idea. You were looking for ideas. This is next. Steffen, last comment, and then we have to close.
Yeah, there's just a follow-up question to what Kathrine said. Like it reaches the Commission, but does it make a difference with the Commission? And I think that's where, like, I'm a little bit hesitant actually with involving stakeholders and citizens, because it has to be meaningful. And unless it makes a difference with the decision maker, then I think it's a little bit of a waste of time. Because what we've seen a lot with public participation is that there's a lot of effort is being made, and then the decision maker maybe reads a document or watches a video, and then they make a completely randomized decision where you're just in the complete dark about how did they make this decision. And then you start looking back at all the stakeholder comments they received during the public consultation. They can pretty much pick and choose whatever policy they want and find justification for that, because there's such a big range of stakeholders that are coming up with all kinds of different policy suggestions.
I think we need to close the panel also, sorry, but maybe just defending my employer, and defending who I stand for. I think, first of all, it also, you have regional actors, you have national actors, and all these, when you consult your citizen, if I as a citizen reply to something which is, what I'm consulted by my region or by my country, I would like it first of all to reach those politicians, and they can then carry also the message to the Commission, But I think a lot of these documents are really, really interesting, and yes, they reach their goals, I would say, because we do value what citizens think. But I think this is a very, very nice discussion. I think we should continue it over the dinner, and you should talk to people in the tram about materials and convince them about how important it is. But we need to close due to time, so I hand it back to Marco. Thank you very much for all your contributions.